Hey, we continued our series this weekend on Feed the Pig. And we're talking about investing in those key money behaviors that will ultimately feed you. And not just feed you financially, that's a part of it, but feed you relationally, spiritually, emotionally, in all of the areas of our life. And some of you may be like, well, why are you talking about that? That's because Jesus talked about it more than just about anything else, more than love and prayer and reading the Bible, because he knows that money weaves through almost every area of our life. And so the parable of the talents is really a picture of what life with God is really supposed to be like. And it's not just practically about finances. It's an earthly story that has a lot of heavenly significance, but he does talk about this principle that those who use well what they've been given will be given even more. It says that they will have an abundance. This is the purpose of this parable or this short story that Jesus tells. But to those who do nothing with what they have, even the little that they have will be taken away. And as he tells this story about the one servant who had 5 bags of silver, a lot of money. Each bag would be like a lifetime's of earnings for that audience. The second servant had 2 bags and the third servant had 1 bag. The first 2, they did something. They invested it and they earned. In other words, they had a plan. The third servant did nothing. No plan, buried it in the ground. The first 2 were rewarded. The last one wasn't. I mean, essentially, the bottom line is people who follow a plan eliminate a lot of unnecessary pain. And that's true for a lot of areas of life. When you follow a plan, discipline can actually bring a lot of freedom to your life. Just trying to wing it doesn't always go the way that we hope it would or it could. So we really talked about the 5 things that you and I need to do to win with our money. And I would love to take credit for these things, but they're not really mine. I mean, you see them in Dave Ramsey's stuff. You see them in Larry Burkett. You see them in CNBC Money. I mean, when I go through them, it's not rocket science. Number 1, you got to spend less than you make. You got to know your earnings. And it's got to be greater than what you're trying to save, spend, and give. And so sometimes we have a spending problem and we need to change our spending. For some people, they just have an earning problem. If you really want to spend, save, and give all of that, you might need to pick up a side hustle, find a way to increase your income level by getting the extra skills or training that you need instead of just waiting for something to come along. You got to spend less than you make. Number 2, you got to give every dollar a job. Look at your dollars as employees. They work for you. And so you use some of your dollars. Their job is to put a roof over your head. Some of your dollars, their job is to feed you. Some people, their job is to entertain you, and they better be doing their job. We're going to talk more about that next week, or you better fire them. It's like use your dollars in a way that are going to give you the results that you want. So give every dollar a job. And then number 3, you need to eliminate and stay out of debt. And there's ways to do that through the debt snowball and appropriate, number 4, saving and investing. And when you put the 2 of those together, man, you can really do some cool stuff. I walked through an example this past weekend. You can watch on our app or at cedarcreek.tv. And the last one is to be generous. It's like, well, generous, doesn't that fight against winning with money? That's what we think. But if you Google generosity, well-being, and research, you're going to find dozens of articles that tell us the opposite. It's like when you're generous, it actually feeds you in a way that spending money on yourself doesn't. It actually lowers anxiety, unlike spending money on yourself, especially when it puts you into debt. So if you want to win with your money, follow a plan to eliminate unnecessary pain. And one of the spiritual underpinnings of this story is that third servant claimed he knew the master, but he really didn't. And I really believe how you use your money reveals how you view God, our Heavenly Father, our Master in heaven. And so, man, it's really important to stay connected with Him, because when you live from a healthy relationship with God, knowing that He has it all, that He's in control and that He's got it, then you're less afraid. And when you're less afraid, you do less foolish things. So that's a weekend message in 5 minutes or less. Can't wait to see you next weekend as we talk about the money dial, how to turn up the dial in some of the areas that you really want to spend. It's going to be fun.